Hi. Oh. My name is Joel Rian, and I am very privileged to be a teacher here at Hokkaido Information University. By the way, thank you very much for coming today. And I love my job here at HIU, Hokkaido Information University. It's an appropriate name, I think. We're in Hokkaido, we're a university, and we specialize in the technology and the skills to deal with the immense amount of information out there on the internet today. The internet. That's the theme today. The internet. And after the internet. All right? After internet, I was thinking about that. After internet. What comes next is what it seems to be saying, right? Sounds futuristic. Like all the future. What comes next? The next technology, the next thing, the next wonderful new gadget that's coming up. What comes next? And that's a good question because we're heading into the information age. Actually, we're already there. And I think, though, that if we ask what comes next, I think it's also important to think of what came before. Because the past and the present, the connection between the past and the present has implications for our future. Big implications, is what I think, all right? Now, most of my students, and I love them because they keep me young, all right? Most of my students probably don't really know exactly what came before. There's a lot of people out there, well, the internet, it's always been there, right? Right, it's always been there. Well, my students, they keep me young, all right? This is me when I was their age, in fact. And thanks to them, they always say, people say, well, Ryan is he's always so genki, he's always so high energy. And that comes from them, actually. In fact, it's because of them that I feel like this sometimes still, all right? They keep me young, and that's a connection between my past and my present. Thank you very much for keeping me so young, all right? But, of course, if you look really closely at these pictures, you start to feel a little bit, well, okay, I'm not 18 years old anymore. In fact, look at the TV and look at the video games I was playing. And you think, oh dear, well, I was born in an era before the internet. And speaking of which, here is me on a computer without the internet. It had an actual floppy disk. All right. And yes, there's no internet. The hair, I had to come to Japan to figure out fashion, all right? I wasn't very fashionable back then. But yes, anyway, these all have implications, all right? Go back 20 years into the past. And this thing right here, right? This changed my life, all right? This was an old clock on the mantle of my fireplace when I was a very young kid. I remember it very well, and I remember that it didn't work. And that really bothered me. I kept looking at it, and it didn't work, and it's a clock. It's supposed to tell time, I said. And my parents, they were like, well, it's old. It's broken. It's a decoration. And I thought, a decoration? Remember, I was about this small. It's a decoration. Nobody goes out and buys a new clock, doesn't put a battery in it, puts it on the wall, and says, that's a decoration. Right? I couldn't handle it. I was just like, no, it's not a decoration, it's a clock, it needs to be fixed. And my uncle, he said, well, it tells the correct time twice a day. And he laughed, and I didn't laugh. And so my parents, bless their heart, they went and had it fixed, took it to a clock doctor, and it came back, and it was ticking, it was alive. It had a heartbeat, and it had a voice. It sang out the hour, every hour. Without fail, as long as you winded it, as long as you wound it, and sang out the hour. And I thought that was excellent. And it was like the past and the present came together. And that's what was really important for me, all right? Now, my mom, she wasn't as thrilled. She didn't like the idea that it chimed at 12 midnight. She didn't like it as much. But the point is that an old clock does the same thing. It's one of the few household appliances that does the same thing now as it did 100 years ago. And so it's like that past and the present are in one space. All right? Now, fast forward again 20 years. This is my apartment. And I had my first full-time job, excuse me, and I had a little extra money and a little extra time. And I made the mistake of going to an antique show. I went to an antique shop and an antique show, and I saw the broken clocks there, and they were the cheaper ones. And so I felt sorry for them, and I had to buy them and save them. And I couldn't fix them, but I had to keep them. I mean, they were broken, and they needed healing, all right? And things got a little bit out of hand, as you can see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, there's more. This is about half of them. And after a while, you know, I said, no, this is getting out of hand. This is something wrong with this. I can't continue to do this. I need to do something about this. So I took a clock repair class. Took 3 of them at the St. Paul Institute of Technology. They had clock repair classes, and I learned how to fix clocks. And, well, you know, things got a little bit worse from there, all right? Learned how to fix clocks, and then pretty soon, I was good enough at it that the teacher of that class offered me, she ran a clock store, and she offered me work. She said, look, if you help me fix my customers' clocks, I'll buy you tools. And I was like, yeah. You can see some of these here, right? Some of my tools here. And things got even worse after that. Better, all right? This is what I started to do, all right? I was fixing clocks. And those classes were some of the funnest times in my life. And I was fixing clocks, but the most important thing I was doing was sharing that connection between the past and the present with other people. And that was what was really, really impacting for me, all right? And that would have continued probably had I not had a chance to come to Japan when I was, well, in 1998. My mom was in the Minnesota Orchestra, and they took a tour of Japan. And I tagged along for about 10 days, and wow, talk about eye-opening. That was amazing. I mean, there I was in the Eastern Hemisphere. I was in the land of the rising sun, and everything was all new and different, and you can see where I went first. Right? Well, they wouldn't let me into the clock tower, unfortunately, but anyway, it wasn't just the clocks I was after. There's a lot of other things that were opening my mind, all right? It wasn't, in fact, the bling and the glitz of it all. It wasn't the glow of Tokyo so much. It was this place, Meiji Shrine, all right? Meiji Jingu. This is where I was, and I remember wandering around and around for hours looking at things, and it was so quiet and so blissful and so serene and so ancient. And it was plunk right in the middle of the high-tech capital of the world. And I thought, wow, that is so cool. All right. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention before that I was so captivated by it that they said the next time I come, I'm coming on a one-way ticket. And I did that, in fact, and I'm still here after 13 years. Now, this guy is the one that really, you know, struck it home to me. I took a picture of this guy, and I thought his hat was cool, and his clothes were cool, and especially the broom. Take a look at that broom. Can you see that there? It's a bunch of sticks tied to a pole, and I was like, wow. I was expecting a pocket leaf blower. You know, but this guy had a bundle of sticks tied to a pole, and I thought, man, that is just the coolest thing ever. That is so ancient, and yet here it is in the middle of Tokyo. All right, now, right? This is one thing that I just love about Japan. All right, it has this amazing ability to blend the ancient with the modern. For example, you can see here's a leaf blower. And incidentally, according to the internet, leaf blowers were invented in the United States somewhere, and some Japanese gardeners got a hold of them, brought them back to Japan and made them cheaper, better, faster, and more efficient, and then they came back to the United States. all right? But anyway, this is the thing here. I took this picture on the right just about 2 weeks ago. This is HIU. These brooms are everywhere. And they're a reminder of this ancient thing. I mean, this could have been the same broom 2,000-3,000 years ago. And I thought that was really cool. The blend of ancient and modern, the use of technology, both are okay. And I thought, wow, that is really, really cool. Now, for another example, all right, take the abacus. By the way, has anybody in here studied abacus? Anybody gone to abacus school? It's hard to see, but you can raise your hands if have you studied the abacus? Oh, no. Oh, there's one back there. Okay, all right, it's a couple of them, all right. Study the abacus. Well, in an age of information and supercomputers and technology, who would study the abacus? You know, this is ancient, but yet my daughter does. She's 10 years old, and she's studying this abacus here. And, excuse me, and she studied this abacus, and she's about 3 times better at math than I am. And I have to rely on this calculator up here, which incidentally was my dad's calculator. It belonged to him, and it's a Casio made in Japan. I thought that was kind of ironic. But the study, here's this balance of ancient and modern. And Japan is so good at that. I thought that was just so cool. All right, so my message is this. If there's one thing I've learned from being in Japan and from being with old clocks, all right, it's the ability to have the past and the present and the old and the new coexist and be in the same space. It's almost as if they hold hands. And I thought that was really cool. For example, I mean, I can go on eBay. I can take a lightning-fast internet connection, go on eBay, and buy lots of old clocks. And then I can go to Amazon and buy books about old clocks, and then have them shipped directly to Japan, to my front door at the touch of a button. All right. So these old things. And speaking of books, why do we still have books? Did anybody read books in here? Can I ask? Anybody read book reader in here? Oh, there's one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Now, I won't ask electronic books, but have you ever asked, why do we still have books? I mean, I could download a whole shelf of books onto my Kindle, and I could carry around a library of books on my iPad. And yet, there's something that keeps us going back to bookstores. We go to bookstores, and we turn the pages, and we buy the book, and we smell the ink, and we scribble in the margins and fold the pages. Maybe there's something about that. And I think it's important to realize these things, to especially be aware of the balance between the past and the present. And as we go into the afternet, the age of the after-internet, to be able to balance these things and choose which technology is appropriate for what. Am I saying we should get rid of technology and read only books? No, not at all. Go for it. That's what here HIU is about. Right? It's about the embracing the newness and the power of invention. However, while we do that, it's very important, I think, to keep perspective and to keep our relationship with the past and to be able to choose and to decide this technology is appropriate for this, and this technology is appropriate for this. Japan is so good at that. It's so good at making technology, making it faster and better, and cheaper and more efficient. And yet, at the same time, it's just as good as choosing which technology to use and when. And that, I think, is one of the most important things as we go into this post-internet age. All right, now, a final example, all right, of the balance between the past and the present and analog versus digital, all right? Final question to you all. Who's got a wristwatch here today? Anybody got a wristwatch? Raise your hands, big and tall, all right? It's hard to see through these lights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, you got a wristwatch. There you go. Oh, all right. How many of you have digital wristwatches? See the digital ones? There's one. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. All right. How many of you with the wristwatches have analog wristwatches? Oh, interesting. Modern wristwatch, old-fashioned style. Me too. I've got my Casio wave scepter here. Casio, just like my dad's calculator. And it's ultra accurate. Now, those of you with digital, you're all high tech. All right. Now, again, all right, lessons, there's lots of lessons to be learned. That's the one thing, the balance between the past and the present and keeping it all in perspective. Now, me, I haven't learned my lesson about clocks yet, as you can see. This is my office, and it's got a lot of clocks in it. I've always found it ironic that I've always had an abundance of clocks and yet never enough time. Speaking of time, that's all the time I have, and thank you for your time today.